Chapter 6, Life Planning. To make the most of our learning journeys to Earth, we and our spirit guides spend a lot of effort planning our visits. Before our life planning session, guides consider several different human characters and life situations for us to try out. They review countless situations and character roles in various cultures during specific periods to select the best options they believe will help us succeed at learning a primary lesson. Temperaments. Once a few different lives are selected for us to consider, our guide takes us to a place souls refer to as the Ring of Destiny. We try on the human costumes we might wear during those lives to feel the character role that comes with that human. Different humans may approach a situation in different ways, so we also preview their personalities and temperaments. Human personalities develop and change as a person grows, but each human starts with a fundamental temperament on which its personality is built. Based on theories originating as far back as Greco-Roman that were modified by Carl Jung, Ivan Pavlov, and other scientists, human temperament is typically one of four general approaches. Sanguine. The approach is optimistic, carefree, social, phlegmatic. The approach is amiable, relaxed, peaceful, choleric. The approach is competitive, driven, irritable, melancholic. The approach is quiet, analytical, sensitive. To enjoy a little sense of comfort when coming to Earth, souls look for a human temperament they feel best matches theirs. Ultimately, we make our human selection because we want to experience certain situations through a person like them. Milestones. In planning our earthly lives, we don't preview the entire life because that would mean that visits to Earth are scripted. Instead, we are shown certain pivotal moments at the beginning of each life we are considering. These pivotal moments, or milestones, are events we are highly likely to experience based on the human and life we're choosing. We only preview the milestones at the beginning of our planned visit because life can go on many different paths depending on the direction chosen at each milestone. After we select a character and life to play, we attend an orientation class that gives us and other earthbound souls an introduction to the condition of the planet at the time of our visit. Free will plays heavily in all the decisions we souls make about visiting Earth. We aren't required to take our guide's suggestions as to the best life situation for what we want to learn or the character role to play. And if at any point we have reservations, we have total control to decide whether we go or not. Unpredictable. As much as heaven tries to give us a preview of the character role, life situation, and milestones to help us learn a primary lesson, our visit is still very much an improvisational performance. Each milestone may or may not occur depending on certain factors. These factors include whether we follow the directions that our spirit guide whispers to us throughout our earthly life, how proficient we are at guiding our humans toward the milestones, the progression of the relationships we have with our supporting cast of soulmates, and which milestone finally helps us learn our primary lesson. Most humans with whom we partner are sleepwalkers whose routine behaviors make them creatures of habit and their behaviors fairly predictable. But predictable doesn't mean predetermined. Humans have a mind of their own. At any point, while we inhabit a human, they can do something unpredictable and decide to choose B over A and take their life in a different direction. This is why, when our spirit guide is looking for potential earthly life situations for us, they look for a human whose behavior is fairly consistent and more than likely to reach each milestone. With the help of our spirit guide, using intuitive prodding, we should be able to successfully reach our milestones even if the human takes us off course at times. We are so deeply integrated within our humans that even if they zig instead of zag, we should ideally be able to assert our influence on our human's brain to redirect their path. How effective our influence is depends on the cooperative nature of our human and how skilled we've become at manipulating humans through many visits to Earth. Living inside a human with a mind of its own doesn't allow earthly life to be scripted. Souls understand this. They don't go to Earth to experience a life where every step is choreographed and predetermined. That is why we only plan milestones, believing our resourcefulness will allow us to reach them. As soon as a milestone teaches us the lesson we came to Earth to learn, future milestones no longer need to occur. Our life with our human partner can go in a different, less challenging direction. However, if we slip back into our old ways of thinking or acting, more milestones will appear to teach us the lesson again. Each milestone gets progressively more impactful and painful, so the lesson it impresses on us makes a permanent change. And even though during pre-birth planning we agree to achieve those milestones, we always have the free will to scrap those plans when we come to Earth. We can choose to ignore all the directions from our spirit guides because it is ultimately our lesson to learn or not. Our lessons. As young souls who haven't traveled outside of heaven, we develop our soul personality and learn more about who we are in a place where unconditional love and acceptance are overwhelming. We can hear about contrasting lives from our soul group conversations because some of our soulmates may be at different learning levels from us. However, their experiences aren't ours. Hearing their stories entices us to learn about possible experiences and adventures outside of heaven. But the only way to truly learn is for us to travel outside of heaven to have our own adventures. Traveling beyond our comfortable heavenly home to experience a contrasting life can sound scary to young souls, even when their experienced soulmates and sometimes spirit guides offer to accompany them on their journeys. These immature souls may not welcome jumping right into earthly adventures and might consider other easier worlds first. Because Earth School offers such accelerated learning, they may still decide to try Earth, but start with a less challenging life. These timid souls typically choose lives where they can be protected by their earthly families and experience life under their family's watchful eyes. These shy souls may choose for their initial earthly incarnations to partner with a human who has autism, Down syndrome, Williams syndrome, or similar personality traits, so their human hosts are likely to be nurtured and kept close to their families. In this way, they get a small taste of what earthly life is about without facing challenges on their own for their first visits. On rare occasions, some young souls may incarnate as beloved family pets to experience an earthly life where they are guaranteed to be protected and cared for by their family members throughout their lives. When planning a new life, smart souls will rely on their guides' wise suggestions, but all souls have the free will to try lives and situations that go against their spirit guides' sage advice. In the book Your Soul's Gift, a woman named Catherine came to Robert Schwartz for therapy because she had left an abusive relationship after 12 years. She wanted to learn why she chose such a life situation. In deep hypnosis, Catherine's soul revealed that her current husband, Tim, played her son in a previous life where he was killed. Catherine regretted not being able to protect him, so she reincarnated into her current life in hopes of being able to show him the love she wasn't able to in the past. In a follow-on counseling session, Schwartz called in medium channeler Stacy Wells to view Catherine's pre-birth planning to better understand what she hoped to accomplish in this life with Tim. Channelers like Stacy Wells are gifted humans whose souls willingly step aside so other heavenly beings can use that human costume as a mouthpiece. With the help of these extraordinary people, Schwartz speaks to his clients' souls and their spirit guides to learn what life challenges and lessons his patients planned for their current earthly incarnations. Wells relayed that she saw Catherine and Tim discussing this life in her pre-birth planning session. Tim admitted that he had been struggling with lifetimes of abusing others. Catherine and her spirit guide were aware of Tim's shortcomings, but Catherine couldn't see past her guilt or heartfelt love when choosing the circumstances for her current life. Tim revealed he hesitated to participate in a relationship at this time with Catherine because he was afraid when he came to Earth he'd forget to honor her or cherish her love. Catherine insisted her main goal was to love him unconditionally and feel him in her arms. Tim warned that their loving relationship may include him hurting her because he didn't feel ready to try another relationship just yet. The spirit guide cautioned Catherine during her pre-birth planning that her life could turn out very badly. Even though Catherine's guide tried to talk her out of a marriage with this abusive soul, she chose to exercise her free will and ignore her guide's warnings. Despite the many challenges, souls are willing to continue visiting Earth for several reasons. We know our visits are temporary excursions away from heaven. We know that regardless of what happens to our human hosts while on Earth, as souls we can't be physically harmed. Most importantly, we know that the extreme challenges on Earth hold the greatest potential to accelerate our learning and growth goals. Even with all this wise planning and coaching, the success of each earthly visit comes down to our abilities and skill level at executing the plan. Until we master earthly life, we are likely to experience difficulties that create emotional scars in our personalities. Learning how to remove these scars gets added to our lesson plans. For example, let's say we've had a few earthly incarnations on Earth where we never quite mastered steering our human hosts. Because of this, we went through some traumatic lifetimes, and our soul personality developed emotional scars of fear and mistrust. We still want to try to overcome this challenge, but now we're going to Earth with emotional scars that may influence our performance. Even with the coaching from our spirit guide, our fear and mistrust scars might override their advice. Instead of effectively steering our human through our learning milestones, we may encourage our human to be conservative and controlling to keep people at a distance to avoid more hurt. To stop our tendency to control everything as a protective mechanism, our guides may plan an earthly life where our human enters a loving relationship and loses control of their life by having a crippling accident where they lose the use of their legs. They are forced into a situation where they have to trust others and depend on them. To make this accident milestone likely, our spirit guide may recommend we partner with a fearless human risk-taker. During the pre-birth previewing of events in that life, we would see how this loss of the use of our human's legs is likely to happen. But likely doesn't mean definitely. Humans have a mind of their own. However, if our guide picks the right human partner for us to play, the probability is high of an accident happening to give us the learning milestone we seek. Once the accident occurs, we are then in a situation where our human no longer has control of every aspect of their life, and they are at the mercy of trusting others for help. If the plan works, we learn that a fear-driven life is not necessary, and trust is possible when we let go of our anxiety and hand over control to someone else who loves us. Love conquers fear. In the scenario above, the planned accident milestone is the major milestone for that life. There will be minor milestones, like getting into the relationship beforehand, that are designed to help us ease our fears, mistrust, and the need to control life. If we learn to abandon our desire to control life earlier in our earthly incarnation, the major crippling accident may no longer need to occur. The success we have with any planned life is based on the humans we partner with and how cooperative they are at letting us pursue the guidance of our spirit guides during that earthly visit. If our human partner is someone with a weak ego, we may be able to pursue our lesson and learn it during a minor milestone so we don't have to face the major ones. If the human we pick has too strong of an ego, the accident may need to occur, forcing them to let go of its control so we can learn the lesson. Strong ego challenges. Imagine another scenario. We have incarnated several times with humans who have weak egos. We naively believe we are ready for the challenge of living with a human who has a stronger ego. Our spirit guide advises against it, but we pull our free will card, certain we can steer our new human's behaviors. Our spirit guide prepares us for that life, hoping against hope we can accomplish this daunting feat. Our initial partnering with this new human looks promising. It seems we have a cooperative partner whom we can influence lovingly. As their ego develops and strengthens, however, its fear takes control. Our human erects emotional barriers to isolate themselves from what their ego fears, blocking our loving influence. As their fear grows stronger, they enlist others to help distance themselves from what they fear, but they can't escape what is driven from within. Eventually, they demand those who follow their fearful beliefs to seek and destroy any perceived threat. The traumatic impact of this scenario leaves us defeated and teaches us that our spirit guide was right, and we weren't skilled enough to do battle with a strong ego. Our attempts to steer our human went nowhere, and the lesson we learned was not the one we'd hoped for. After our return to heaven, we do a deep cleansing of our energy. We humbly get counseling and training to understand how we could have been more successful in such a situation. With study, coaching, and going back to Earth for some less challenging trips, we develop the skills necessary to influence a human with a strong ego. When our spirit guide thinks we are ready, we again pick a life situation where we will partner with a human whose ego takes them down a path of fear-driven isolation and violence. Fortunately for this earthly visit, some of our soulmates agree to accompany us and play love interests for our human partner. Armed with the skills necessary to steer our human away from their fearful and destructive path and toward loving relationships, we head back to Earth. This time our influence is successful, and our human's fearful emotions are replaced with the love for a wife and child. This scenario is similar to the transformation that was experienced by white supremacist Christian Picciolini in Chapter 4. Earth School is all about learning experiences, and it is most successful when we trust our spirit guide's advice and guidance. Each lifetime begins only after an incredible amount of planning with our spirit guide to ensure we choose the most beneficial learning milestones during our visits. Because we adopt amnesia as we start our earthly journey, it can be hard for us to figure out our learning milestones. That is why it is best to listen to our intuition, because that is our spirit guide directing us through our learning curriculum. Their advice will help us identify and follow the lessons we planned. If at some point we realize people are just souls wearing costumes for their learning journeys to Earth, we may be tempted to figure out the learning plans of other souls. Your time is better spent figuring out your plan, because learning curriculums can be very complex and seemingly illogical if you don't know what other souls are trying to heal from previous lives. For example, imagine this scenario. There is a family with an alcoholic husband, Leonard, who can't hold down a job. His wife, Roberta, is abused by her drunken husband, yet stays in the marriage to help him. Their son, Jacob, temporarily takes on a leadership role in the family, but leaves the family at an early age to get away from its toxicity. His sister, Becky, lacks a father figure and seeks the affection of older men. She gets pregnant, and her baby is adopted by her aunt and uncle. This hypothetical scenario might seem difficult to figure out what kinds of pre-birth planning these soulmates had for their incarnations. Using what we've learned so far, here is a plausible explanation that shows how complicated these plans can be. Leonard is the husband and father. In previous lives, Leonard had lived life as an atheist, or at best an agnostic. In this life, he wanted to learn to live a more spiritual life. He knows that if he is an alcoholic who goes into recovery at Alcoholics Anonymous, they will teach him how to approach life spiritually. Leonard has also taken on alcoholism as a teaching tool for his soulmates, Roberta, Jacob, and Becky. Roberta is the wife and mother. In past incarnations, Roberta was very selfish and materialistic. She lived an affluent life and cared very little for the struggles of those around her. In this incarnation, she hoped to learn compassion for others by being a devoted caregiver for her husband. In the past, her relationships were short-lived. Whenever she started getting too close to others, she'd break off the relationship. In this life, her son Jacob is helping her with her karmic lesson of how it feels when someone close to her walks away from the relationship. Jacob is the son and brother. Jacob needed to work on improving his self-love. Taking on a leadership role in the house gave him the confidence to recognize his self-worth. Protecting his self-love, he learned to stand on his own 2 feet by removing himself from the toxicity of his alcoholic father. In leaving the family, he also completed the karmic lesson he agreed to teach Roberta by leaving and putting her in a primary caregiver role. Becky is the daughter and sister. In past lives, Becky was flippant in her relationships with men. She broke many hearts without giving them a second thought. Living with an uninvolved father was a milestone that drove her to feel the karmic lesson of heartbreak. Seeking male affection outside the family, she got pregnant. This allowed her mother, Roberta, another opportunity to practice love and compassion. Keeping her child helped Becky experience a true love for someone else. Giving the child up for adoption taught Becky the pain of losing someone she loved and the importance of not approaching loving relationships impulsively. The aunt and uncle, played by other members of her soul group, were ecstatic to take on the experience of having a child in their childless marriage. As you can see, trying to figure out the parts souls play and why they play them can be difficult if you don't know what they struggled to learn in previous incarnations. The intention of this book isn't to help you find logic and meaning in everyone's lives. It's simply meant to show you logic and meaning exist so you can find it in your own life. The best use of any soul's time on earth is discovering their learning curriculum and following the guidance of their spirit guide to make the most of their visit to this planet. The more we learn while visiting here, the fewer repeat visits we'll need to make.